In this scene, the Romanian count has escaped a century-plus imprisonment on the bottom of the English Channel, and finds himself in the home of a working-class British couple. Dracula marvels at the refrigerator, at running water and lights that glow with the flip of a switch, at the automobile outside and the television inside. Dracula, what's wrong with your servants, Kathleen? Is it their day off? I'm assuming you have staff. You're clearly very wealthy. Kathleen, wealthy? Dracula, yes, look at all this stuff. All this food, the moving picture box, and that thing outside. Bob calls it a car. Is that yours? Kathleen, yeah. Dracula, and this treasure trove is your house. Kathleen, it's a dump. Dracula, it's amazing. Kathleen, I've been a nobleman for 400 years. I've lived in castles and palaces among the richest people of any age, and never have I stood in greater luxury than surrounds me now. This is a chamber of marvels. There isn't a king or queen or emperor that I have known or eaten who would step into this room and ever agree to leave it again. I knew the future would bring wonders. I did not know it would make them ordinary. It wasn't the future that brought wonders to people and made them ordinary. It was the capitalist system. Let's forget about access to luxury goods and just think about food for a moment. For most of human history, this is what poverty looked like. And in the United States of America, this is what poverty looks like now. The picture above is from the NPR story now called Struggling in Ohio as the Economy Tightens. The original title, if I remember correctly, was about mother and daughter who couldn't afford food. Any poor person from 100, 500, or 1,000 years ago, from anywhere in the world, looking at the picture of the two women would assume that they were obscenely wealthy. Only the most wealthy could afford to ingest so many calories. The purpose of showing that picture is not to belittle the women. I've struggled with my weight, and becoming more fit is difficult. It's doubly difficult when you're broke. Fitness centers, running shoes, a bicycle all cost money. But the challenges faced by someone who is broke and substantially overweight in a modern Western country in no way compares to what is faced by people who don't have access to the basic caloric intake needed to sustain life. Now the descendants of those noble Mafians that stole from the whole world are preaching on capitalism as this was the basis of their current wealth. And the world is fascinated by their success, completely forgetting all their shameless deeds. In the same time, the Soviet Union that single-handedly managed to get its people out of awful poverty is considered an example why the state socialism has to fail eventually. In fact, citizens of the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact were by no means poor as we define poverty today. Unfortunately, they have never the advantage of having heirloom from any armed robbery. They just took back what the other robbers stole from them. Not only black people were slaves, even whites suffered the same fate. So you do not need to feel overt sympathy for killed Russian nobles. The serfdom was abolished in 1861, but as you can imagine the serfs and their families were neither compensated, nor have equal starting positions with their masters. They even have to endure the Second World War and rebuild their countries afterwards while paying back the loan to the USA, while West Germany, the defeated power, enjoyed the luxurious Marshall Plan. Even with so unfavorable starting position, the East kept struggling with their archenemy for 40 years, successfully building society of more or less equal opportunities for everyone. Unfortunately, the West won the game, and because of it, the myth of capitalism being superior to socialism has been born. Curiously enough, forms of socialism survived, and the most successful one right now is represented by present China and some European countries. The latter were reasonable enough to avoid going the path of the USA that are the best example of a country where no well-educated average Joe or Sue want to live unless the living conditions in their country are even worse than is the situation in the USA. Actually, Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union presents the best illustration what happens if a country switches from ineffective socialism to effective capitalism. There is no country of the Warsaw Pact that can claim they are better off after the switch, even if they love to think otherwise. In the reality, the state-owned properties belong to Western corporations now, their armies are diminishing, and as for flats they are mostly living, those are the overpriced remnants of social heritage, insulated by polystyrene and painted in vivid colors. The living conditions have been improved, but if you compare state of these countries after WW2 and in their 90s, no one can claim that the lives of those people were worsening or stagnating over the time. However, their happy dreaming of capitalism came with price, reflected in growing national debts. Quite steep price for having new fancy car and exotic fruits in supermarkets, owned by foreign corporations, don't you think? But to answer your question, the proper key for making poor people believe in capitalism is to educate them properly. The endless repeating of the same lie must become the truth eventually. Okay, you can see your neighbor to lose everything because of a bank loan, but he just disappears while you are enjoying all benefits of developed countries. The homeless people are just victims of their own incompetency. One day you get fired or the crisis comes. You have no other choice than to blame yourself for being not competitive enough. Capitalism works like a lottery with no rules. Chances to win are incredibly small, yet people still buy tickets if they can afford to. The more you cheat, the more you win. We all can become millionaires if we work hard enough. In a sense, capitalism is just an advanced form of slavery, in which the rich can exploit the poor without any responsibility unless we count their beloved charities, the rotten theaters that enable our devils playing the roles of angels.